There are moments in life when you become invisible, even when you're standing right there in the same room, breathing the same air. You know that feeling? That tightness in your chest when you realize that in the eyes of your own family, you've become just the little old lady, the grandma who bakes cookies, the woman who already lived her life and now only exists to babysit the grandkids on weekends. I know what that's like. I lived it. For years, I was treated as if my only function was to smile, serve coffee, and pretend I didn't hear the whispered conversations. Poor grandma, she can't even use her phone properly. She lives in the past, doesn't understand anything about the modern world. They looked at me with that condescending pity, as if I were an antique piece of furniture. Nice to have around, but with no real value. No voice, no purpose. Just old. And you know what hurts the most? It's not the age. It's not the gray hair or the wrinkles I carry with dignity. What hurts is being reduced. It's feeling that everything you were, everything you achieved, everything you still are, simply doesn't matter anymore. Have you ever felt like this? Invisible inside your own home? As if your story had been erased? As if your accomplishments were worth nothing? Share in the comments where you're watching from. Your presence here already means you understand the weight of these words. What happened to me could happen to any woman, to any grandmother, to any person who was once strong, capable, brilliant, but whom society decided to retire before their time. But what I did after that changed everything. Because while they saw me as the harmless grandma who barely knew how to use WhatsApp, I was building an empire. While they laughed at my questions about technology, I was closing six-figure deals. While they underestimated me, I was becoming a millionaire. And nobody, absolutely nobody, suspected a thing until the day the truth came out. And my dear, the shock on their faces was indescribable. By the end of this story, you'll understand something powerful. Never underestimate a woman who has already survived decades of life. Because behind that gray hair, there's a strength the world hasn't seen yet. You're not alone. All of us have been underestimated. All of us have heard that our time has passed. But some of us simply refuse to believe it. And that's exactly what I did. The pain of being invisible isn't physical. It's emotional. It's existential. It's waking up every day knowing you have so much to offer, but nobody's interested in listening. It's having decades of experience, wisdom, stories of struggle and overcoming, and being treated as if all of that were irrelevant. Think about it with me. When a woman gets older, the world subtly pushes her into the corner. Not with violence, not with screaming, but with condescending smiles, with pats on the shoulder, with phrases like, "Rest now, you've done your part. But what if I don't want to rest? What if there's still fire inside me? What if my dreams don't have an expiration date?" Being underestimated is like carrying a diamond in your pocket while everyone treats you as if you were just a common stone. You know your worth, but nobody else seems to see it. And it was in that contrast between who I really was and who they thought I was that my greatest victory was born. Because while they underestimated me, I was rebuilding myself in silence. And it was at that moment I realized nobody was going to come validate me. I would have to prove my worth on my own. It all started on a Tuesday afternoon. I remember because it was my grandson's birthday, and the whole family was gathered at my daughter's house. I had spent the entire morning baking his favorite cake, chocolate with strawberry filling, the one he's loved since he was 3 years old. I arrived with the cake, and nobody even looked at me. They were all gathered around the table, talking excitedly about business, investments, the stock market. My son-in-law was explaining some new venture he was getting into. My daughter was showing graphs on her laptop. Even my grandson, who had just turned 22, was participating in the conversation with that confidence of someone who thinks they know everything about the world. I put the cake on the counter and stood there, waiting for someone to acknowledge my presence. Nothing. I tried to join the conversation. I asked a question about the business they were discussing. And that's when it happened. My son-in-law looked at me with that patronizing smile and said, "Don't worry about these things, Mom. This is complicated stuff. Why don't you go rest? You must be tired from baking." The whole table laughed. Not a mean laugh, but worse. A laugh of pity. As if I were a child who had said something cute but silly. I felt my face burn. But I didn't say anything. I just smiled, the way I had learned to smile over the years, and went to sit in the corner of the living room. And there, watching my family discuss million-dollar deals while treating me like I was incapable of understanding basic math, something inside me broke. But it wasn't the kind of break that destroys you. It was the kind that wakes you up. Because the truth nobody there knew, was that at that very moment, I had 3 times more money in the bank than all of them combined. Let me go back a bit. Let me tell you how this all began. 5 years ago, when I turned 68, my husband passed away. We had been married for 47 years. He was my everything, my partner, my friend, my safe place in the world. When he died, I felt like half of me had died with him. The family was kind, in their own way. They said I should sell the house, move in with one of them, take it easy. After all, what was an elderly widow going to do alone in that big house? But I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to be the grandma living in the guest room, depending on everyone for everything. So I decided to stay in my house. And in the silence of those first months of widowhood, I started thinking about my life. I had been a teacher for 30 years. I had raised 3 children. I had been a good wife, a good mother, a good grandmother. But somewhere along the way, I had stopped being myself. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back at me. When had I become so small? When had I accepted that my life was over? It was on one of those sleepless nights, scrolling through my phone because I couldn't sleep, that I stumbled upon a video. It was a woman, younger than me, talking about how she had started an online business and changed her life. I watched that video 3 times, and then I watched 10 more, and 20 more. And for the first time in months, I felt something I thought I had lost forever. Hope. I know what you're thinking. An elderly woman starting an online business? It sounds crazy, right? That's exactly what my family would have said if I had told them. So I didn't tell them anything. I started studying. Every day, for hours. I learned about e-commerce, digital marketing, social media, things I had never heard of before. Was it hard? Of course it was. I made mistakes, lots of mistakes. There were days I wanted to give up, days I felt ridiculous, a 70-year-old woman trying to understand algorithms and metrics. But every time I thought about quitting, I remembered that look, that condescending look my family gave me. And I kept going. I started small, very small. I opened an online store selling handmade products, things I made myself, crochet, embroidery, personalized items. The first month, I made $20. The second month, $50. It wasn't much, but it was mine. It was proof that I was still capable. And then something unexpected happened. One of my products went viral. A video I posted on social media got thousands of views. Orders started pouring in. I could barely keep up. I had to hire help. I had to learn about inventory, logistics, suppliers, things I never imagined I would need to know. Within 6 months, my little hobby had become a real business. Within a year, I was making more money than I ever made as a teacher. But I still didn't tell anyone. Not because I was ashamed, but because I wanted to see how far I could go on my own. I wanted to prove to myself that I was still capable. That age was just a number, not a sentence. I reinvested every penny back into the business. I learned about Facebook ads, Instagram marketing, email campaigns. I hired a young designer to help me with the visual identity. I brought on a social media manager who taught me about trends and engagement. And the business kept growing. By the second year, I had expanded to 3 different product lines. I was selling not just handmade items, but also curated vintage pieces and collaboration products with other small artisans. My margins were good, really good. I was making 6 figures a year, and nobody in my family had the slightest idea. To them, I was still just grandma, the woman who baked cakes and asked silly questions about technology. I would show up at family dinners with a smile, listening to them talk about their jobs, their struggles, their victories, and I would nod and say how proud I was of them. And I was. I truly was proud. But there was also a small part of me, I'll admit, that felt a quiet satisfaction knowing what they didn't know. Let me tell you about the day everything changed. The day they finally found out. It was Christmas Eve, 2 years after I started my business. The whole family was at my house. I had insisted on hosting, even though my daughter said I shouldn't tire myself out. Everyone was there. My 3 children, their spouses, my 7 grandchildren. The house was full of noise, laughter, the smell of food cooking, children running around. I was in the kitchen finishing up the dinner preparations when I heard my son talking in the living room. His voice was tense, worried. I wiped my hands on my apron and walked over to see what was happening. He was on the phone, and from his face I could tell something was very wrong. When he hung up, he looked devastated. "Mom," he said, looking at me with those tired eyes, "I just lost a major client. This could bankrupt my company. I don't know what I'm going to do." My son owned a small consulting firm. He had built it from scratch and was very proud of it, but I knew the business had been struggling lately. "How much do you need?" I asked. He laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had given up. "Mom," he said, "it's not that simple. I need about $80,000 to cover payroll and keep the doors open until I can find new clients. I've already talked to the bank. They won't give me a loan. I'm going to have to let people go. Maybe even close the business. The whole family had gathered around by then. Everyone was quiet, somber. They all knew what this meant for him. I looked at my son, at the defeat in his eyes, at the weight on his shoulders, and I said the words that changed everything. I can lend you the money. The room went completely silent. Everyone looked at me as if I had suddenly started speaking a foreign language. "Mom," my daughter said gently, her voice full of that careful tone people use when they think you're confused. "We're talking about $80,000. That's a lot of money." "I know," I said calmly. "I can transfer it to you tomorrow if you need it." My son-in-law laughed nervously. "Mom, where would you get that kind of money? Do you even have that much in savings?" I looked at each of them, one by one, at their faces full of confusion and disbelief, and I said, "I have quite a bit more than that, actually." What followed was a chaos of questions. Where did I get this money? Had someone left me an inheritance? Had I won the lottery? Was I being scammed by someone online? I let them talk over each other for a moment. Then I raised my hand and they all went quiet. "I have a business," I said simply. "I've had it for 3 years now. It's doing very well. You could have heard a pin drop." "A business?" my daughter repeated. "What kind of business?" "I sell products online. Handmade items, vintage pieces, collaborations with artisans. I have a team of 5 people working with me. We do about $40,000 a month in revenue." I watched as they tried to process this information. Their faces went through several expressions: shock, disbelief, confusion, and then, slowly, something else. Questions started pouring out. How did I start this? When? Why didn't I tell anyone? How did I learn to do all of this? I sat down and told them everything. About the lonely nights after their father died. About feeling invisible. About that first video I watched. About the mistakes I made and the lessons I learned. About how I taught myself everything from YouTube videos and online courses. About the first $20 I made and how it felt like winning the lottery. About growing the business slowly, carefully, reinvesting everything. My daughter started crying. "Mom," she said, "why didn't you tell us? We could have helped you." "I know," I said, taking her hand, "but I needed to do this on my own. I needed to prove to myself that I still had value, that I wasn't done yet." My son was just staring at me, his mouth slightly open. "You have $80,000 to lend me?" he finally asked. "I have quite a bit more than that," I repeated. "I've been saving most of what I make. I live simply. I don't need much." "How much more?" my youngest daughter asked, her voice barely a whisper. I paused. I hadn't planned to reveal this, but now that the truth was out, there was no point in hiding anymore. "Last month, I crossed $1 million in total earnings since I started the business," I said quietly. "After expenses, taxes, and reinvestment, I have about $600,000 in savings and investments." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. They just stared at me as if I had transformed into someone they didn't recognize. And in a way, maybe I had. But here's what I want you to understand. The money wasn't the point. It never was. The point was the journey. The point was discovering that I wasn't finished, that I still had dreams, that I still had value beyond being someone's mother or grandmother. The point was learning that it's never too late to reinvent yourself. You see, somewhere along the way, we're taught that life has stages. You're young, then you're middle-aged, then you're old. And when you're old, you're supposed to just wait quietly until the end. But that's not living. That's just existing. I refused to just exist. Did it scare me? Absolutely. There were nights I couldn't sleep, worried I was making a fool of myself. There were days I wanted to quit, to just accept that this was all I was meant to be. But every time I felt that fear, I asked myself a question. Would I rather fail trying or succeed at doing nothing? And the answer was always the same. After that Christmas Eve, everything changed. Not just in how my family saw me, but in how I saw myself. My son accepted the loan, by the way. And he paid me back within 8 months, with interest, even though I told him he didn't have to. His business recovered, and today it's thriving. But more than that, something shifted in our relationships. They started asking me for advice. Really asking, not just humoring me. They wanted to know how I marketed my products, how I managed my team, how I stayed motivated. My grandchildren started seeing me differently too. One of them, my granddaughter Emma, asked if she could intern with me during her summer break. She wanted to learn about entrepreneurship. I said yes, And those 3 months working together were some of the best of my life. I got to teach her everything I had learned. And she taught me things too, about new platforms and trends I hadn't discovered yet. She's in college now, studying business. And she tells people her grandma is her biggest inspiration. Do you know what that feels like? To go from invisible to inspirational? But I want to be honest with you. This story isn't just about success. It's not just about making money or proving people wrong. It's about something deeper. It's about reclaiming your identity when the world tries to take it away. Because here's the truth nobody wants to talk about. Society has this way of making women disappear as they age. Slowly, subtly, we're pushed to the margins. Our voices get quieter. Our dreams get smaller. Our very existence becomes an afterthought. And if we're not careful, we start to believe it. We start to believe that we're less than we were, that our best days are behind us, that we should be grateful for whatever scraps of attention we get. But I'm here to tell you that's a lie. Your age doesn't define your worth. Your wrinkles don't measure your capacity. Your gray hair doesn't determine your potential. You are still here. You are still capable. You still have so much to give to this world. And I know some of you watching this right now are feeling exactly what I felt. That invisibility. That sense that your time has passed. That nobody sees you anymore. But I see you. And I want you to know that it's not too late. It's never too late. I started my business at 70 years old. 70. An age when most people are settling into retirement, watching television, waiting for grandchildren to visit. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, if that's what makes you happy. But if there's something else burning inside you, some dream you've been pushing down because you think you're too old, too tired, too late, I'm here to tell you that you're not. Let me share something with you that I learned during this journey, something nobody talks about. Starting over later in life actually gives you advantages that younger people don't have. You have experience. You've lived through decades of ups and downs. You know how to handle failure because you've already survived things that would break someone younger. You have patience. You're not in a rush. You don't need instant gratification. You can play the long game. You have wisdom. You can see through the noise. You know what matters and what doesn't. And perhaps most importantly, you have nothing to prove to anyone but yourself. When you're young, you're constantly worried about what people think. You're trying to fit in, to meet expectations, to follow the rules. But when you get to a certain age, something beautiful happens. You stop caring so much about other people's opinions. You start living for yourself. That freedom is powerful. That freedom is dangerous, in the best possible way. I used that freedom to build something I never thought I could build. Now, I won't lie to you and say it was easy. It wasn't. There were technical challenges I had to overcome. Learning to use new software, understanding analytics and data, figuring out shipping and logistics. There were moments of frustration so intense I wanted to throw my computer out the window. There was one night, about 3 months in, when my website crashed right in the middle of a big sale. I had no idea how to fix it. I stayed up until 3 in the morning, watching YouTube tutorials, trying to figure it out. I was exhausted. I was crying. I was convinced I had made a terrible mistake. But then I thought about my husband, about what he would say if he could see me. He always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. He used to say I could do anything I set my mind to. And I realized I owed it to him, to his memory, to at least try. So I wiped my tears, made myself a cup of tea, and kept working until I figured it out. By sunrise, the website was back up, and I had learned something new. That's how it went, over and over. Problem after problem, solution after solution. Each challenge making me stronger, smarter, more confident. And slowly, I stopped being that invisible woman in the corner. I became someone else. Someone I had forgotten existed. I became the woman I was always meant to be. Now, my business has grown beyond anything I imagined. We ship products all over the country. We've been featured in several online magazines. We have thousands of loyal customers who come back again and again. But the money, the success, the recognition, as wonderful as those things are, they're not what matters most. What matters most is that I wake up every morning with purpose. I wake up excited about the day ahead. I wake up knowing that I matter, that what I do makes a difference. And that feeling, that sense of purpose, is worth more than all the money in the world. I want to tell you about something that happened a few months ago. Something that really drove home what this journey has meant. I was at a business conference. Yes, me, a 73-year-old woman, at a business conference with people half my age. I almost didn't go. I thought I wouldn't fit in. I thought people would look at me like I was someone's grandmother who wandered in by mistake. But I went anyway. And during one of the networking sessions, I started talking to a young woman, probably in her late 20s. She was telling me about her startup, her challenges, her fears, and I found myself giving her advice. Real advice, based on real experience. She listened intently, taking notes, asking questions. At the end of our conversation, she looked at me and said something I'll never forget. She said, "You're exactly who I want to be when I grow up." I almost laughed. Here was this brilliant young woman with her whole life ahead of her telling me, a woman in her 70s, that I was her inspiration. But then I realized something. Age is just a number, but inspiration is timeless. It doesn't matter if you're 25 or 75. What matters is that you're living authentically, that you're pursuing your dreams, that you're not letting fear or society or other people's expectations hold you back. That young woman and I became friends. We still talk regularly. And sometimes I mentor her, and sometimes she teaches me about new trends and technologies. Because that's the thing about learning and growing. It never stops. It doesn't have an age limit. Every day I'm still learning something new. Every day I'm still challenging myself. Every day I'm still becoming more of who I was meant to be. And you know what the family thinks now? They're my biggest supporters. My daughter helps me with the accounting. My son gives me business advice. My grandchildren help me with social media and marketing. That grandson who barely acknowledged me at his birthday party, he now works for me part-time, managing customer service. And he tells his friends that his grandma is the coolest person he knows. The transformation in how they see me is remarkable. But more remarkable is the transformation in how I see myself. I'm not just grandma anymore. I mean, I am grandma, and I love being grandma. But I'm also an entrepreneur, a business owner, a mentor, a woman who took a risk and changed her life. And here's something beautiful that happened. My success inspired others in my family to take risks too. My youngest daughter, who had always dreamed of writing a novel but never had the courage to start, finally wrote her book. She said watching me chase my dreams gave her the courage to chase hers. My middle child went back to school to get a degree they'd always wanted but thought they were too old for. Even my sister, who's 75, started a small catering business from her home because courage is contagious. When people see you doing something brave, it gives them permission to be brave too. Let me ask you something. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What dream have you been carrying in your heart, too afraid to pursue it? Maybe it's starting a business like I did. Maybe it's going back to school. Maybe it's learning a new skill. Maybe it's traveling somewhere you've always wanted to go. Maybe it's writing that book, painting that painting, starting that nonprofit. Whatever it is, I want you to know something. You can do it. I know you might not believe me right now. I know you might be thinking about all the reasons why you can't. You're too old. You don't have enough money. You don't have the skills. You don't have the time. You don't have the support. I thought all those things too. But here's what I discovered. Those aren't reasons. They're excuses. And I say that with love because I used those same excuses for years. The truth is, there will always be reasons not to do something. There will always be obstacles. There will always be fear. But on the other side of that fear is a life you can't even imagine yet. A life where you wake up excited. A life where you matter. A life where you're not invisible anymore. Is it scary? Yes. Is it hard? Absolutely. Will you make mistakes? Without a doubt. But will it be worth it? Oh, my dear, you have no idea. I think about who I was 5 years ago. That sad, lonely widow who felt like her life was over, who felt invisible and irrelevant and forgotten. And I look at who I am now, confident, purposeful, alive. It's like I've been reborn. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. You don't need to be special. You don't need to be particularly smart or talented or lucky. You just need to be willing to try, to take that first step, even when you're terrified. Because here's the secret nobody tells you. Everyone is terrified. Everyone doubts themselves. Everyone feels like they don't know what they're doing. The only difference between people who succeed and people who don't is that successful people do it anyway, despite the fear. They take the first step, and then the next step, and then the next. And before they know it, they've climbed a mountain they never thought they could climb. That's what I did. One small step at a time. The first step was watching that video. The second step was watching more videos. The third step was signing up for an online course. The fourth step was creating my first product. Each step was small. Each step was manageable. But together, those small steps took me somewhere I never dreamed I could go. And you can do the same thing. You can start today. Right now. This moment. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have a perfect plan. You just have to begin. Start with something small. Research something you're curious about. Watch a tutorial. Take a course. Talk to someone who's doing what you want to do. Just take one small step. And then tomorrow, take another one. That's all it takes. That's the secret. Now, I want to talk about something important. Something I struggled with a lot in the beginning. Guilt. I felt guilty for wanting more. I felt guilty for not being satisfied with just being a grandmother. I felt guilty for spending time on my business instead of being available every time someone needed me. Society tells us that older women, especially grandmothers, should be selfless, should always put everyone else first, should be content with being in the background. And for a long time, I believed that. I believed that wanting something for myself was selfish. But then I realized something. You can't pour from an empty cup. When I was feeling invisible and purposeless, I wasn't a good grandmother. I wasn't a good mother. I wasn't good company to anyone, including myself. I was going through the motions, but I wasn't really present. I was just existing, not living. But when I started pursuing my dreams, when I started building something of my own, I became more alive, more engaged, more joyful. And that made me better at everything else too. Better grandmother, better mother, better friend, because I was fulfilled. I was happy. I had something that was mine. And there's nothing selfish about that. In fact, I think it's one of the most generous things you can do. To show the people around you, especially the younger generations, that it's never too late, that you don't have to give up on yourself, that you can reinvent yourself at any age. My grandchildren are growing up watching me pursue my dreams. They're learning that age doesn't have to be a limitation, that women can be entrepreneurs, that it's okay to want more from life. And that's a gift I could never have given them if I had just stayed in my corner, invisible and quiet. So if you're feeling guilty about wanting something for yourself, I want you to let that go. You deserve to have dreams. You deserve to pursue them. You deserve to live a life that feels full and purposeful and exciting. Not because you've earned it, though you have, but simply because you're alive. And as long as you're alive, you have the right to grow and change and become more of who you are. Let me tell you about one of the hardest days I had during this journey. It was about 18 months in. The business was doing well, better than I had hoped. But I was exhausted. I had been working 12-hour days, trying to keep up with orders, manage my team, learn new skills, handle customer service issues. And one morning, I woke up and I couldn't get out of bed. Not because I was physically unable to, but because I was just so tired, so overwhelmed, so done. I lay there thinking, what am I doing? I'm 71 years old. I should be relaxing. I should be taking it easy. Why am I putting myself through this? And for a moment, I seriously considered giving up, just closing the business, selling everything, and going back to being invisible grandma. It would have been so much easier. But then I got a message on my phone. It was from a customer. She had ordered one of my products as a gift for her mother, who was battling cancer. She sent me a photo of her mother holding the gift, smiling despite everything she was going through. And she wrote, "Your beautiful creation brought so much joy to my mom today. Thank you for what you do. You're making a difference." I read that message 3 times, and I cried, because I realized something. This wasn't just about me anymore. It wasn't just about proving I could do it or making money or staying relevant. It was about making a difference, about bringing beauty and joy into people's lives, about creating something meaningful. And that's when I understood the real reason I was doing this. Yes, it was about reclaiming my identity. Yes, it was about proving I wasn't invisible, but it was also about contribution, about using my gifts to make the world a little bit better. And that's worth the exhaustion. That's worth the struggle. That's worth every sleepless night and every moment of doubt. So I got out of bed that day, and I kept going. And I want you to remember this when you start your own journey, whatever that journey might be. There will be hard days. There will be days when you want to quit. But on those days, remember why you started. Remember what you're working toward. Remember the difference you're making, even if it's just for yourself, because that matters. You matter. Now, I want to address something that I know some of you are thinking. You're thinking, but I'm not like you. I don't have business skills. I don't know anything about technology. I wouldn't even know where to start. Let me tell you something. I didn't either. 3 years ago, I barely knew how to send an email. I didn't know what social media marketing was. I had never heard of e-commerce platforms or conversion rates or SEO. I knew nothing, but I learned. One thing at a time, one video at a time, one mistake at a time. And if I could learn, you can learn. The resources are out there. Free tutorials on YouTube, online courses, Communities of people who are happy to help. You don't need to know everything before you start. You just need to be willing to learn as you go. And yes, you'll make mistakes. Lots of them. I made so many mistakes in the beginning. I set prices too low and barely made any profit. I invested in the wrong kind of advertising. I trusted the wrong people. I wasted time on things that didn't matter. But each mistake taught me something. Each failure made me smarter. Each setback made me stronger. That's how you learn. Not from success, but from failure. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. Embrace them. Expect them. Learn from them. They're not signs that you're not good enough. They're signs that you're trying, that you're growing, that you're becoming. Let me share one of my biggest mistakes with you. In my first year, I got an opportunity to partner with a larger company. They wanted to carry my products in their stores. It seemed like a dream come true, but I was so eager to say yes, so excited about the opportunity that I didn't read the contract carefully enough. I ended up locked into an agreement that gave them way too much control over my pricing and my inventory, and they didn't promote my products the way they said they would. I lost money on that deal. A lot of money. And I felt like an idiot. Here I was, a business owner, and I had made such a rookie mistake. But you know what? That experience taught me to always read contracts carefully, to get legal advice before signing anything, to trust my instincts when something feels off, and those lessons have saved me from making even bigger mistakes since then. So yes, I made a costly error, but I learned from it, and I moved forward smarter and more cautious. That's what resilience looks like. Not avoiding failure, but learning from it and continuing anyway. And I think that's something we older folks actually have an advantage in. We've already failed at so many things in life. We've already survived so much. We know that failure isn't fatal. We know that you can fall down and get back up. We know that mistakes are just part of the journey. Young people are often so afraid of failure that they don't even try. But we've lived long enough to know that failure is just feedback. It's just information. It's not a judgment on our worth. That perspective is powerful. That perspective is liberating. So use it. Use your experience. Use your wisdom. Use all those years of surviving and overcoming and persevering. They're not liabilities. They're your greatest assets. I want to talk about something else that made a huge difference in my journey. Community. I found other women online who were doing similar things, building businesses, starting over, chasing dreams later in life, and we supported each other. We shared advice. We celebrated each other's wins. We encouraged each other through the hard times. Having that community made all the difference. Because this journey can be lonely, especially in the beginning, when nobody around you understands what you're trying to do. But when you find your people, when you find others who get it, who believe in you, who cheer you on, everything becomes easier. So I encourage you to find your community, join online groups, attend local meetups, connect with people who are on a similar path. You don't have to do this alone, and you shouldn't. We're stronger together, we're braver together, we're more likely to succeed together. One of the women I met online became one of my closest friends. Her name is Margaret, and she's 76 years old. She started a coaching business helping other older adults navigate technology, and she's absolutely thriving. We talk almost every day. We share our challenges and our victories. We brainstorm solutions. We remind each other why we're doing this when we want to give up. She's been such a blessing in my life, and I hope I've been a blessing in hers. That's what community does. It lifts you up. It reminds you that you're not alone. It shows you that what you're doing is possible, because other people are doing it too. So find your Margaret, find your cheerleader, find your community, and be someone else's cheerleader too. Because when we lift each other up, we all rise together. Now, let me address something that I know is on some of your minds. Money. You might be thinking, I don't have the money to start a business. I'm living on a fixed income. I can't afford to take risks. I understand that concern. I really do. But here's the truth. You don't need a lot of money to start. I started my business with less than $200. That's all I had to invest in the beginning. I used free platforms to build my website. I used my own materials to make my first products. I learned everything from free YouTube videos. Yes, having more money would have made things easier. But not having money didn't stop me. And it shouldn't stop you either. There are so many ways to start something with very little investment. Service-based businesses where you're selling your time and expertise. Digital products that cost nothing to create. Consulting or coaching where your knowledge is the product. You don't need fancy equipment or a big budget. You just need creativity and determination. And if you need to start even smaller than that, start with a side hustle. Keep your current income and build something on the side until it's making enough to support you. That's what I did. I didn't quit anything to start my business. I just added it to my life, 1 hour at a time. Some days, I only had 30 minutes to work on it. But I used those 30 minutes. And over time, those 30-minute blocks added up to something real. So don't let money be your excuse. Don't let lack of resources hold you back. Where there's a will, there's a way. And you have more resources than you think. You have time, you have experience, you have skills, you have knowledge, you have passion. Those things are worth more than money. Let me tell you what happened last month, something that really brought everything full circle. I was invited to speak at a women's entrepreneurship conference. Me, speaking on a stage, in front of hundreds of people. A year ago, I would have said no. I would have been too scared, too convinced that I had nothing valuable to say. But I said yes. And when I walked onto that stage and looked out at all those faces, women of all ages looking at me with anticipation, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt powerful, not in an arrogant way, but in a way that said, I have something to offer. My story matters. My experience has value. I told them my story. I told them about feeling invisible, about losing my husband, about that first $20, about the mistakes and the victories and everything in between. And when I finished, they gave me a standing ovation. Women came up to me afterward with tears in their eyes. They hugged me. They thanked me. They told me I had inspired them to start their own journeys. One woman, she must have been in her 60s, grabbed my hands and said, I thought it was too late for me. But if you can do it, maybe I can too. And I looked her in the eyes and said, you absolutely can. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. That moment, right there, that's what this is all about. It's not about the money, though the money is nice. It's not about proving people wrong, though that felt good too. It's about showing other women that it's possible, that they don't have to disappear, that they don't have to accept invisibility, that they can write a new chapter at any age. And if my story can inspire even one person to take that first step, then every struggle was worth it. Every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, every time I wanted to give up but didn't, it was all worth it. Because that's the real legacy I want to leave. Not a business, not money, but hope. Hope that it's never too late. Hope that you're never too old. Hope that you always have time to become who you were meant to be. Now, I want to talk directly to you. Yes, you, watching this right now. Maybe you're young and you think this doesn't apply to you, but it does. Because one day, you'll be older. And the choices you make now will determine who you are then. Start building a life you won't want to retire from. Start pursuing passions that will sustain you for decades. Start believing that age is just a number, not a limitation. And if you're older, if you're in that stage of life where society expects you to slow down and fade away, I want you to hear this. You are not done. You are not irrelevant. You are not invisible. You are powerful beyond measure. You have wisdom that can't be taught in schools. You have resilience that comes only from surviving. You have perspective that only time can provide. Don't waste those gifts. Don't let them gather dust. Use them. Share them. Build something with them. It doesn't have to be a business. It can be anything. A hobby that becomes a passion. A skill you've always wanted to learn. A place you've always wanted to visit. A relationship you want to deepen. A cause you want to support. Whatever lights you up inside. Whatever makes you feel alive. Do that. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait until you feel ready. Start now. Start messy. Start scared. Just start. Because I promise you, on your last day on this earth, you won't regret the things you tried. You'll only regret the things you didn't. You'll regret the dreams you didn't chase, the risks you didn't take, the words you didn't say, the life you didn't live. So live. Really live. Not just exist, but truly, fully, beautifully live. Make mistakes. Take chances. Try new things. Surprise yourself. Become the person you've always wanted to be. And when people look at you with surprise, when they say, I can't believe you're doing that at your age, smile and say, watch me. Because there is nothing more powerful than a woman who decides she's done playing small. There is nothing more dangerous than a woman who realizes she has nothing to lose. There is nothing more inspiring than a woman who refuses to be invisible. Be that woman. I am that woman. And every day, I'm becoming more of her. At 73 years old, I'm just getting started. I have plans. I have dreams. I have goals I haven't even shared with anyone yet. Because this journey taught me something fundamental. Life doesn't end at any particular age. It only ends when you decide to stop living. And I've decided I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep building, keep growing, keep learning, keep surprising people. I'm going to keep showing up fully, boldly, unapologetically. And I hope you will too. I hope when you're 73 or 83 or 93, you're still chasing dreams, still taking risks, still believing in your own potential, because that's what we're here for. Not to shrink and fade, but to expand and shine. Not to become less, but to become more. More of who we really are. More of who we were always meant to be. Let me share one final story with you before we close. Last week, I was at my granddaughter's school. She had asked me to come speak to her class about entrepreneurship. These were college students, most of them in their early 20s. And I'll admit, I was nervous. What could I possibly tell them that would be relevant? What could an old woman teach these bright young minds? But I went, and I told them my story. And at the end, one young man raised his hand. He said, "What's the most important thing you've learned from all of this?" I thought about it for a moment. And then I said, "The most important thing I've learned is that the only thing holding us back is ourselves. Not our age, not our circumstances, not our lack of knowledge or resources, just ourselves, our own fears, our own doubts, our own limiting beliefs. The moment you decide to stop letting those things control you, the moment you decide to try anyway, despite the fear, everything changes." And he nodded, like something had just clicked for him. And that's what I want to leave you with today. Whatever you're afraid of, whatever excuse you've been using, whatever reason you've been giving yourself for why you can't, I want you to question it. Is it really true? Or is it just fear talking? Is it really impossible? Or have you just convinced yourself it is? Because I'm here to tell you, as someone who started $1 million business at 70 years old with no experience and barely any money, that most of the limitations we face are self-imposed. We are so much more capable than we think we are. We are so much stronger than we believe. We are so much more powerful than society has taught us to believe. And it's time we started acting like it. So here's my challenge to you. Today, right now, take one small step towards something you've been afraid to try. Just one step. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be perfect. Research something, watch a video, send an email, make a phone call, write one page, create one thing. Just take one small action that moves you toward your dream. And then tomorrow, take another one. And before you know it, those small steps will have taken you somewhere you never imagined you could go. That's what happened to me. And it can happen to you too. You know, when I look back at that woman I was 5 years ago, sitting alone in that big empty house, feeling like her life was over, I barely recognize her. She was so sad, so defeated, so convinced that her best days were behind her. And I wish I could go back and tell her what I know now. I wish I could tell her that the best was yet to come, that the most exciting chapter of her life was about to begin, that she was about to discover strength she didn't know she had. But I can't go back. None of us can. All we can do is move forward, and that's enough. That's everything. Because the future is still unwritten. The story isn't over. There are still blank pages waiting to be filled. And you get to decide what goes on those pages. You get to choose who you become. You get to choose what you create. You get to choose how you spend the time you have left. So choose wisely. Choose bravely. Choose yourself. I spent too many years choosing everyone else, making everyone else happy, putting everyone else first. And there's nothing wrong with caring for others. There's nothing wrong with being giving and generous and loving, but not at the expense of yourself. Not at the cost of your own dreams and desires and sense of purpose. You can be a good mother, a good grandmother, a good friend, and still have something that's yours. In fact, you'll be better at all those things when you have something that fills you up, because you can't give what you don't have. You can't inspire others if you're not inspired yourself. You can't teach others to dream if you've given up on your own dreams. So do it for yourself, yes, but also do it for them, for the people who love you and look up to you. Show them what's possible. Show them what it looks like to never give up. Show them what it means to truly live. That's the greatest gift you can give anyone. My family understands that now. They see how much happier I am, how much more alive, how much more engaged with life. And they're grateful. Not resentful that I have less time for them, but grateful that I'm not just existing anymore, that I'm thriving. My daughter told me recently that watching me build my business changed her life. She said it made her realize she had been playing it safe, staying in a job she hated because it was secure. But seeing me take risks at my age made her braver. She quit that job and started doing what she actually loved. And she's never been happier. That's the ripple effect of courage. When you're brave, you give others permission to be brave too. When you live fully, you inspire others to live fully. When you refuse to be invisible, you help others find their own voice. And that's how we change the world. Not by grand gestures, but by living authentically, by showing up fully, by refusing to shrink, one person at a time, one brave choice at a time, one dream pursued at a time. That's how transformation happens. That's how change begins. And it starts with you, right here, right now. So I'm asking you, what's your dream? What's that thing you've been pushing down, ignoring, telling yourself it's too late for? Bring it back up. Look at it. Really look at it. And ask yourself, what if? What if I tried? What if I could? Because you can. I promise you, you can. It might not look exactly the way you imagined. It might take longer than you hoped. It might be harder than you expected. But it's possible. And you're capable. And you're worth it. Every dream you have, every desire in your heart, every passion that won't let you go, they're there for a reason. They're not random. They're not accidents. They're calling you. They're showing you who you're meant to become. So answer that call. Take that journey. Become that person. And when you get there, when you've done the thing you thought was impossible, turn around and help someone else do the same. That's what I'm doing now. I'm spending more time mentoring other women who want to start businesses. I'm sharing what I've learned. I'm helping them avoid the mistakes I made. And it's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. Because success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about who you become and who you help along the way. It's about leaving the world a little better than you found it. It's about using your gifts, whatever they are, to make a difference. And you have gifts. You have so much to offer. Even if you don't see it yet. Even if nobody's told you. Even if you've been invisible for so long you've forgotten your own light. It's still there. That light. That spark. That unique combination of experiences and wisdom and passion that only you have. Don't let it die. Don't let it fade. Fan it into a flame. Let it burn bright. Let it light the way for others. Let it warm the world. Because we need you. We need your voice. We need your story. We need your courage. The world has enough people playing small. Enough people hiding. Enough people pretending they're less than they are. What we need is more people stepping up, speaking out, shining bright. More people refusing to be invisible, refusing to accept limitations, refusing to believe the lies society tells us about aging and worth and possibility. Be one of those people. Join me. Join all of us who decided that we're not done yet, who decided that age is just a number, that it's never too late, that we still have so much to give and so much to become. Together, we can change the narrative. We can rewrite the story of what it means to grow older. We can show the world that wisdom and experience and resilience are strengths, not weaknesses. That older women are forces to be reckoned with. That we're not finished. We're just getting started. And 50 years from now, when the young women of today are the older women of tomorrow, they'll have a different path to follow. They'll grow older without fear, without shame, without believing they have to disappear. Because we showed them a different way. We blazed a trail. We refused to be invisible. And that's a legacy worth leaving. So here's what I want you to do after you finish watching this. I want you to take a few minutes and really think about what you want. Not what other people want for you. Not what you think you should want. But what you actually want. What would make you feel alive? What would make you excited to wake up in the morning? What would make you feel like you're living, not just existing? Write it down, make it real, give it form, and then take the first step. Just one step. Today. Because dreams don't come true by themselves. They come true because someone decided to make them happen. Be that someone. For yourself, for your family, for everyone who's watching and waiting to see if it's possible. Show them it is. Show them you can. Show them we all can. I did it. You can too. At 73 years old, I built $1 million business. I went from invisible to inspirational. I went from feeling finished to feeling like I'm just beginning. And if I can do it, anyone can. Age is just a number. Limitations are just illusions. The only thing holding you back is you. So stop holding yourself back. Step forward. Step up. Step into the life you were meant to live. The life that's waiting for you. The life you deserve. The life you've always wanted but were too afraid to reach for. Reach for it now. Take it. Make it yours. Because this is your one life, your one chance, your one opportunity to become everything you were meant to be. Don't waste it. Don't wait. Don't let fear win. Live. Really, truly, fully live. And when you're my age, when you look back on your life, you'll have no regrets. You'll have stories. You'll have accomplishments. You'll have pride. You'll know that you didn't play it safe. You didn't hide. You didn't let the world tell you what you could or couldn't do. You'll know that you showed up. You tried. You lived. And that's all any of us can do. That's all any of us should want to do. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. They thought I was just a retired grandma, just an old woman who didn't understand the modern world, just someone to be humored and patted on the head. But when I showed them my business success, when they saw what I had built, when they realized what I was capable of, they were shocked. And you know what? I loved every second of their shock. Not because I wanted to prove them wrong, though that was satisfying, but because their shock meant I had shattered their expectations. I had broken through their limiting beliefs. I had shown them something they didn't think was possible. And maybe, just maybe, I inspired them to question their own limitations. That's the power of living boldly. That's the gift of refusing to be invisible. You don't just change your own life. You change how others see the world. You expand what they think is possible. You give them permission to dream bigger. So go shock someone today. Go do something they think you can't do. Go be more than they expect you to be. Be more than you expect you to be. And remember, I'm cheering for you. All of us who have walked this path before you, we're cheering for you. You're not alone. You're part of something bigger. A movement of people who refuse to accept limitations, who refuse to be invisible, who refuse to stop growing and learning and becoming. Welcome to the tribe. Welcome to the revolution. Welcome to the rest of your beautiful, amazing, extraordinary life. Now go live it. If this story touched your heart, if it inspired you, if it made you believe that maybe, just maybe, it's not too late for you, I want you to do something for me. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Stories of courage and transformation and people who refuse to give up. Leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and what dream you're going to pursue. I read every comment, and I want to hear your story. And share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's feeling invisible. Someone who thinks their best days are behind them. Someone who needs a reminder that it's never too late. Together, we can inspire each other, support each other, lift each other up. Because that's what this is all about. Not just individual success, but collective courage. Not just personal transformation, but changing the world one brave choice at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this journey. Now go write your own story. Make it bold. Make it beautiful. Make it yours. I believe in you. And I can't wait to hear about what you create. Until next time, remember this. You are not invisible. You are not finished. You are not too old. You are powerful. You are capable. You are just getting started. Now go show the world what you're made of.